Good morning, students. Today we are going to read the text of the Chinese statue. So children, let's discuss the objectives first. Children, by the end of this session, you will be able to understand the story in detail. You will also be able to know what kind of a person was Sir Alexander. And children, you will be able to comprehend the reason behind Sir Alexander's journey from England to China. Now children, take out your books at page 59. Now let's start the Chinese statue. The little Chinese statue was the next item to come under the auctioneers. Auctioneer means an agent who sells, an agent who bids. And auctioneers under the auctioneer's hammer. Lot 103 caused those quiet murmurings that always precede the sale of a masterpiece. Precede, children, means happens before, and masterpiece means perfect piece of art. So children, this story actually is set in Sotheby's auction room. It is one of the world's largest brokers of fine art and decorators. So children, in the beginning we will see that the announcement of the next item, that is the Chinese statue, was to be made, which was going to be auctioned. It was actually lot 103, and there were murmurings, means the people out there, they were talking in low voice. There was murmuring all around the room, which was common before the sale of any perfect piece of art. So this was quite common whenever there is a sale of a perfect piece of art. Now let's read the next line. The auctioneer's assistant held up the delicate piece of ivory for the packed audience to admire, while the auctioneer glanced, means quick look, around the room to be sure he knew where the serious bidders were seated. I studied my catalogue, means list of writing, and read the detailed description of the piece and what was known of its history. So children, the assistant of the auctioneer, he held up the statue in such a way that the audience seated there could admire it. While the auctioneer, he was looking around the room in order to know where the serious buyers were sitting. Usually there are some people who are there to just raise the price. They are not serious enough to buy things. They are just only there to raise the price of the thing. And children, the narrator, he read the list and description of the piece and wanted to know its history. The statue had been purchased in Holyheart in 1871 and was referred to as what Sotheby's quaintly, means wisely, described as the property of gentleman, usually meaning that some member of the aristocracy means a person holding exceptional rank, did not wish to admit that he was having to sell off one of the family heirloom. Children, heirloom means thing which is passed to generations. So children, we'll see that the statue was purchased in Holyheart in 1871. Now we are going to read about the inner story. So children, the statue was purchased in 1871 and it was described as the property of a gentleman. It means that the owner of the statue, he did not wish to reveal his identity and the reason behind selling his family's heirloom. He did not wish to reveal his identity to anybody. Okay, so that's why it was named as the property of a gentleman. Now let's read next. I wondered if that was the case on this occasion and decided to do some research to discover what had caused the little Chinese statue to find its way into the auction rooms on that Thursday morning, over 100 years later. So children, the narrator got curious to know about the statue and he wanted to know how the statue reached the auction room on that Thursday morning after 100 years. Now children, next is lot number 103, declared the auctioneer. What am I bid for this magnificent example of? So children, the auctioneer, he declared lot number 103 and the narrator, he wondered what he should bid. What should he bid for that marvelous work, that marvelous piece of art? Sir Alexander Heathcote, as well as being a gentleman, was an exact, means disciplined man. He was exactly 6 foot 3¼ inches tall, rose at 7 o'clock every morning, joined his wife at breakfast to eat one boiled egg, cooked for precisely 4 minutes, 2 pieces of toast with 1 spoon of Cooper's marmalade, means jam, and drink 1 cup of China tea. So children, this is actually the inner story. So Sir Alexander Heathcote was a gentle as well as a disciplined man. He was 6 foot 3¼ inch tall. He always rose at 7 o'clock, had a breakfast with his wife, ate 1 boiled egg cooked for 4 minutes, and then 2 pieces of toast with 1 spoonful of Cooper's jam, and he always drank 1 cup of China tea. He would then take a hackney's carriage, means a carriage pulled by horses, from his home in Cadogan Gardens at exactly 8:20 and arrive at the Foreign Office at promptly 8:59, returning home again on the stroke of 6 o'clock. So children, what he did always, and he would take a carriage at exactly 8:20 and then he reached at the Foreign Office at 8:59 and always returned home at 6. Sir Alexander had been exact from an early age, as became the only son of a general, but unlike his father, he chose to serve his queen in the diplomatic service. Children, diplomatic means connecting with managing relations between different countries, another exacting calling. So children, Sir Alexander had been disciplined from his early age. His father was a general, so it is obvious that he should be very perfect in time, in his manners and habits. Like military people, children, they are very disciplined. So like his father, he did not join the army to serve the queen. Instead, he joined the foreign service. See his rise, children. He progressed from a shared desk at the Foreign Office in Whitehall to third secretary in Calcutta, to second secretary in Vienna, to first secretary in Rome, to deputy ambassador in Washington, and finally he became the minister in Peking. He was delighted when Mr. Gladstone invited him to represent the government in China, as he had for some considerable time taken more than amateur. Children, amateur means doing something for enjoyment. Amateur interest in the art of Ming dynasty. So children, Gladstone at that time was the prime minister. So Ming dynasty ruled China for some time. Alexander Heathcote was a keen lover of art and Chinese tradition. So it was a blessing for him to be appointed in China and see all those things which he hasn't seen yet. This crowning appointment means a position that may be approved by a monarch in his distinguished career would afford him what until then he would have considered impossible: an opportunity to observe in their natural habitat some of the great statues, paintings, drawings which he had previously been able to admire only in books. So children, this Sir Alexander, he was a keen lover of art, of a Ming dynasty and of Chinese tradition. So until then he was appointed there. Until then it was impossible for him to go to China and see all those things which he hasn't seen. Earlier he just read in the books about Ming dynasty, but now he would be able to admire it in their natural habitat. When Sir Alexander arrived in Peking after a journey by sea and land that took his party nearly 2 months, he presented his seals patent, means a type of legal document signed by monarch, to the Empress Sushi, and a personal letter for her private reading from Queen Victoria. So children, that time it was early 1870s, so it took 2 months for him to reach China from England. So that time China was ruled by the Empress Sushi. Sir Alexander, he presented her a legal or a sealed document to the Empress and handed over her a private letter, a personal letter, which was sent by Queen Victoria. The Empress, dressed from head to toe in white and gold, received her new ambassador in the throne room of the Imperial Palace. She read the letter from the British monarch, while Sir Alexander remained standing to attention. Her Imperial Highness revealed nothing of its content to the new minister. only wishing him a successful turn of office in his appointment. So children, the Empress was dressed in white and gold from head to toe, and she received her new minister, the new ambassador, in the throne room of her imperial palace. She read the letter which was sent by Queen Victoria, but she did not reveal anything to Sir Alexander. She just wished him good luck. She then moved her lips slightly up at the corners, which Sir Alexander judged correctly to mean that the audience had come to an end, means stop listening to him. So children, as she just wished him good luck, he did not understand her language, but the way she spoke to him, it indicated him that it was his time to depart. So children, as he was conducted back through the great halls of the imperial palace by a mandarin, means a translator, in the long coat dress and black coat, Sir Alexander walked as slowly as possible, taking in the magnificent collections of ivory and jade, means hard green stones, statues which were scattered casually around the building, much in the way Cellini, means Italian goldsmith, and Michelangelo today lie stacked against each other in Florence. So when he was being led out from the palace, on both the side of the passage, what did he see? There were collection of huge Chinese statues, and a mandarin, who was actually a Chinese official of high rank, he was leading the way, and Sir Alexander was also following him, but he was walking very slowly so that he could take the flavor as much as he could. In the same way, as you would see the statue of Michelangelo and Cellini in Florence, same way the statues were placed in that palace on both the sides. To Alexander, they have different meaning or fascination, but people who visit there day in and day out, they seem to be so ordinary, nothing special. Those statues seem to be very ordinary to them, but for him, they were meaningful. They were so, he was mesmerized on seeing those statues. Now see next. As his ministerial appointment was for only 3 years, Sir Alexander took no leave, but preferred to use his time to put the embassy behind him and travel on horseback into the outlying districts. Outlying means outskirts, to learn more about the country and its people. So children, his appointment there was only for 3 years, so he took no leave. On his holidays or whenever he was free, he had no work, he would visit the nearby districts. To learn more about the country and its people, he would visit the outskirts. Then children, on these trips, he was always accompanied by a mandarin from the palace staff who acted as interpreter and guide. So children, he was always accompanied by a mandarin who acted as an interpreter and guide for him, because he was not knowing Chinese language. So from the palace staff, he was always accompanied by a mandarin. On one such journey, passing through the muddy streets of a small village with but a few houses called Holyheart, a distance of some 50 miles from Peking, Sir Alexander chanced upon an old craftsman's working place. So children, while he was passing, he suddenly came across a workshop of an old craftsman in Holyheart. Holyheart is 50 miles away from Peking. Leaving his servants, the minister dismounted, means got down from dismounted from his horse, and entered the ramshackle, means a carelessly or loosely constructed wooden workshop, to admire the delicate pieces of ivory and jade that crammed, means packed tightly on the shelves from floor to ceiling. So children, he got down from the horse and he entered the workshop in order to have a glimpse of the delicate pieces of ivory and jade that were kept tightly on the shelves of that workshop. Now let's read next. Although modern, the pieces were superbly executed by an experienced craftsman, and the minister entered the little hut with the thought of acquiring a small memento, means an object kept as a reminder of his journey. So children, the craftsman, he must be working really well, as from floor to ceiling the place was packed with statues. So he thought to buy something memento means whenever we go somewhere, we always think of buying something as a token of remembrance or as a sovereign, you may say. So he entered the workshop where he could hardly move. Now see, once in the shop, he could hardly move in any direction for fear of knocking something over. The building had not been designed for 6 foot 3 1/4 visitor. So children, he entered the workshop where he could hardly move because it was very congested. It was not big for a tall man like Sir Alexander. It was stacked with statues and he thought he might knock over something. So children, the Chinese people are actually short-heighted, and so the workshop also was not meant for a giant person like Sir Alexander, a tall visitor like Sir Alexander. Sir Alexander, he stood still and enthralled, means fascinated, enthralled, taking in the fine scented jasmine smell that hung in the air. An old craftsman bustled, means moved in energetic manner, forward in long blue coolie robe means a loose fitting outer garment, and flat black hat to greet him. A jet black plaited pigtail fell down his back. He was mesmerized when he breathed in the jasmine scent that was in air. An old craftsman, he came forward wearing a long blue robe and a black hat to greet this giant, this Sir Alexander. So children, many of the Chinese, they have ponytails. I'm talking about the males there, they have long ponytails. So similar is the case with this craftsman. He also had a jet black pigtail that fell down his back. He bowed very low and then looked up at the giant from England. The minister returned the bow while the Mandarin explained who Sir Alexander was and his desire to be allowed to look at the work of the craftsman. The old man was nodding his agreement even before the Mandarin had come to an end of his request. So children, this craftsman, he bowed and then looked up at him. So Chinese, they bend half of their body in order to greet a person. So Sir Alexander, he also returned the same bow. And the Mandarin, he explained the craftsman about Alexander, that he was a British ambassador. He was an ambassador from England, and he wanted to have a look at his work as he was a lover of art. The craftsman, he nodded in approval. So let's read next. For over an hour, the minister sighed. Sighed means a long, deep breath. And chuckled means laughed quietly, as he studied many of the pieces with admiration and finally returned to the old man to praise his skill. So children, the craftsman, he nodded in approval. So Sir Alexander, he approved many of his pieces and he praised his skills also. The craftsman bowed once again and his shy smile revealed, means disclosed, no teeth, but only genuine pleasure at Sir Alexander's compliments. Pointing a finger to the back of the shop, he beckoned, means called the two important visitors to follow him. So children, the craftsman, he was so old that when he smiled, it revealed that he had no teeth, but only a genuine pleasure. He pointed a finger to the back of the shop and told two of them to follow him. So children, this was all about today's session. Your homework is revise the same which we have discussed today. Thank you so much, children.